Hey everybody, it's Lo and welcome back to my channel, Lo Without Limits. Today I'm going to be showing you my top 5 favorite things to spiralize with my brand new spiralizer. So if you want to see those, then just keep watching. As you saw a few weeks ago in my mini Christmas haul, I did get this spiralizer for Christmas during Secret Santa. It has 5 different blades. So the one I have in currently is this really big blade. It also has space for 2 different blades on the bottom. This is not a super small one, but it's pretty tiny. This one is just a regular blade. It won't make it into different noodles. And over on this side, I have this really big one and these very little ones. So there's 4 different kind of noodle spiralizers, and then there's one just basic, like they'll make it more of a ribbon than a noodle. And what I was using before was this little guy. I just got it on Amazon, super cheap, and it worked for zucchini noodles. So it just made zoodles, which is really at first what I was just using it for. And it has 2 different sides. It's a larger one over here and a smaller one on this side. You just stuck the zucchini in and twisted it, and then when it got down to the bottom, use the top to keep twisting it. So it really worked for what it was good for. But that's pretty much it, and it was super small, so if you don't have space for a spiralizer, this is definitely something good if you just want to make zucchini noodles or carrots, anything that can really fit in this smaller area. It definitely works, and I do really like it. But now I'm on to bigger and better things. So I now have this spiralizer. So it has 4 different suction cups, so when you're spiralizing something, you can just push it down on each little leg, and then to release it, there's these little tabs on each leg, and you just push it up. So I'll make sure that's suction on, nice and tight. And I'm going to spiralize 5 different things today. So the first one that we're going to start off with is, of course, a zucchini. So this is just a basic zucchini. And I've just cut it so the ends are flat and they're pretty parallel with each other versus how the zucchini curves. So you want to try to get them as parallel as you can from both ends. For this, I will use the smaller blade, so it's not the super tiny one that's in the plastic, it's just this small one. Pop it in there, and I'm going to put it in a bowl just because zucchinis do create a lot of water, so I'm just going to set that bowl right towards the end there. You can use it to catch. So take your zucchini and you're sticking it on the inside of each little blade is this little circle here, so that you can use to just kind of puncture into the center. So I'm going to put that on there. And I'm going to push the back in with these little spikes. And I'm going to go. Now it'll be a little weird at first since it isn't the most flat of a cut. Once it gets to the end, you can just pull it off, and that will come right on out. Be careful doing this part, but you can get just the rest of the zucchini noodles. And from one zucchini, I now have an entire bowl of zucchini noodles. Look at those. So many. And oops, I'm dropping some. And if you're new to meal prepping or just making healthy meals and making something, different healthy alternatives, especially in the new year when everybody's making their resolutions, these are just a really good alternative to different pastas. They really have no flavor, and what I like to do with them, since they do have so much moisture in them, I just stick them on a pan on the stove top with a little bit of olive oil just for a few minutes because you don't want them to start getting super wilted. And then you do that enough just to kind of warm them up, give them a little bit of your healthy fats, and then you can put just a hummus on top. You can put a regular tomato, like a pasta sauce on top with some tomatoes, with some chicken, and it's so good, and it's just so full, so many micronutrients, and it's just really good and a super basic thing to do. And again, if you don't have the money or the space to have a big spiralizer wherever you're living, zucchinis work perfectly with this little mini one. The second one that I'm going to do is a cucumber. I like putting cucumbers in my water, but I like it for a lot of other things too. So I'm just going to cut each side again. Again, try to make it as parallel as you can. And for the cucumber, I'm not going to make them into noodles. I'm just gonna make it into a ribbon. So I'm gonna pop that one into my thing. And again, stick this right on the little circle. Put the back in. Make sure it's nice and snug. I'll use a plate for these ones. And start going. Again, just throw this piece out. Or you can smack on it if you want to. And look at this. This is one big continuous cucumber ribbon. Like, isn't that so cool and so pretty? You can use it for just snacking with a little bit of salt and pepper, and you can throw this, if you want to chop it up into smaller little ribbons, throw it on top of a salad. And how I really like to use it is with this gluten-free Norwegian crisp bread from Trader Joe's. So it just has sunflower seeds, oats, sesame, and flax combined in a crispy, crunchy, gluten-free crisp for maximum cracker satisfaction. And I think these are so good. So I either usually take hummus and I'll spread that on top of this, or if I make tuna, just put some tuna on top of this. And I love cucumber with my tuna, so I usually just put all those together. And it works in sandwiches instead of just like chopping up your cucumber, and it's always kind of thicker. Just using this and throwing that in there, and it's just so pretty. So that is how to spiralize cucumber. Now for the next one, I'm going to go back to these small blades, the same blades that I used with the zucchini. Pop that in there. And for this, I'm going to use an onion. And this is great because I love sauteing my onions, just especially when I make a fajita bowl. I'll do onions and bell peppers on the stovetop to mix in with everything. And I just love onions. Like, I mentioned it in so many different videos that like, I'll throw onion with everything. Whatever recipe calls for when it comes to onion, I always add more. And I really love red onion more than white onion. Definitely more micronutrients and just a lot more flavor in my opinion. So even if a recipe usually calls for white onion, I'll always put in red. Again, I just cut it parallel on each side, and I actually cut this onion a lot. I was usually just gonna cut off both tips, but on this side I kind of cut it more towards the middle. Honestly, like, obviously cut an onion normally with just the ends, but this onion's like kind of shitty, which is sad. But I'm gonna spiralize it anyway, just to show you. And I'll put that on a plate. Again, lock it in, and go. Carefully get the end out of this one, just since onions have so many layers. And here is the spiralized onion. Of course, since again it's a red onion, just look at how beautiful it is. The kind of bad parts ended up a little on this side, so I'm just gonna take those out. But just so beautiful. Again, it's so much easier to saute instead of having to cut up the onions yourself. Will probably save you a lot of tears. And just throwing them on salads, in sandwiches again, because now you have thin, beautiful pieces to go nice and flat between pieces of bread. It's just so much prettier and so easy, and again, so simple to do with a spiralizer. And onions, just stuff like this, definitely not something that you could do with this little guy. So I have this, set that off to the side. The next thing I'm going to show you is sweet potato. So I have a full sweet potato here, and what I would just do is take the skin off and cut it, but I'm not gonna do it with this one. Only because I used some sweet potato for another recipe the other night, so I still have this little half left. This one already has the skin off and it's flat on each side. So for this one, I'm going to use this bigger blade. So it's not the jumbo one, it's kind of in the middle. I think if I would give them numbers, this would be like 4 for biggest, 1 for smallest. The one that I used on the zucchini and onion would be 2, and then this would be like number 3. But of course, some spiralizers just come with 3 blades, some come with 7. So for my 5 blade set, that's just kind of how I'll distinguish them with myself. So I'll pop this in and really make sure for sweet potatoes and just like really dense starchy vegetables like this that it's super suctioned in, because this gets very, very hard. I was doing it the other night and it was just so much spiralizing. I was like, this is an arm workout in itself. So maybe spiralize your potatoes on leg day. Again, just pop it in kind of towards the center. Here is my big plate of spiralized sweet potato. One, I love spiralizing sweet potato, first of all, because I love sweet potatoes. I could eat these with anything. I love them for breakfast, for dinners, for meal prepping. I just love sweet potato. So what I like to do is spiralize sweet potato is make them into little nests and put eggs in them. And I'll show you that actually towards the end. So be sure to keep watching. I just have one more thing to spiralize for you guys. The last thing that I'm going to show you is an apple. So this is super good for different desserts, and again, just for snacking. I'm gonna switch the blades out just to the simple flat one that we used for the cucumber. And for the apple, just the little bottom part that you can stick right on that little hole there. And then stick the top in. Bowl ready. Apples are a bit more difficult just because of the core in them, so just be careful with that. About halfway done with it. And here you have some apple ribbons. You'll just have to go through and pick out a few little seeds made it in, but these are super good if you're doing an apple crisp, if you're just baking like an apple pie, really anything that you would want just nice thin apple pieces for. Well, I really like them. I don't have any more because I'm actually out from eating all of this, but it's very similar to these Norwegian crisp spreads. They are just rice crackers. You can just get thin ones. I personally like the really thin ones instead of the thick circle ones. I get some thin ones, I get them at Sprouts. And I like rubbing some almond butter on there. I can make either my own almond butter or if I just buy some, and throwing some apples on top. Or if you just throw it on with honey on the little rice cracker. Just so many different things to do with this, and it's just so good, and it's so much easier to just like cut and take with you, and it's really, really good for making a dessert. Before I get into making something with what I've just spiralized, something else that I forgot to mention are these wraps. I've made a video with them before when I made my own hummus. I'll link that in the description box, but these are just organic veggie wraps. I got them at Erewhon, but they have very similar ones everywhere. So it's just like a thick wrap, and you can use it instead of bread. So if you wanted to make like a turkey sandwich, but like a turkey wrap. So what I really like about these and zoodling is that it's very hard to wrap, and it will start to crack if it's too full. And sometimes if you take a bite, and it's almost like when you get a Chipotle burrito and they just pop everything on there, then roll it, and you get a bite and it's like, well, that was all beans. Like it was not mixed in there well at all. Sometimes that can happen when you are making your own wraps. So when you are making your own wraps, I like having my spiralized veggies just because, or my fruits and veggies, because I can throw on my cucumber ribbons and just put those on there, and I can lay them down flat so they just fit everywhere, and I get a little bit of everything in every single bite. You can also spiralize carrots if you didn't get shredded carrots. You can spiralize so many things, even bell peppers. So there's just so many things to do with a spiralizer. So once again, thank you so much, Liz. Now I'm just going to clean this up really quickly and show you something that I really like to make with my spiralized food. Now, really quickly to wrap this up, I'm just going to make myself a lunch. I also like this for breakfast or dinner. Really, I like this all the time. So I'm just heating up my skillet pretty close to high, just so it gets a little fast. And what I'll be using are these spiralized white sweet potatoes. So this is like actual sweet potato, not like the red yam that everybody thinks is sweet potato, which I agree, I love the red yam. But actual sweet potato, I spiralized it with the same blade that I did the other sweet potato, so the number 3, as I'll refer to it as, blade. So this is a whole potato. This is the one that I got like the shoulder workout trying to do. And I'm going to use some olive oil, just get that nice and hot on my pan. And what I'll be doing with this is I have a bowl of arugula. It's my favorite leafy green. And sometimes I like arugula with smoked salmon on top, especially for breakfast to take to work. I'm just gonna do arugula, a hefty tablespoon, probably 2 tablespoons of the olive oil. And the pan is nice and warm. Just throw in some handfuls of whatever you want. So I'm doing the white sweet potato. You can do any other type of potato. You can do carrots, squash, really whatever. This should be enough. Need a little bit more. And just kind of get those all in the olive oil. Make sure they're cooked up on their own. Like I said with zucchini, it only really needs a few minutes on the stove. But for this, since it's a bit thicker and doesn't have as much moisture, really get it in there and kind of break down all the starchiness of the potato. Alright, now that it's getting a little bit browned, I'm just going to make sure it's all in the center of the pan. And then make these like nests of sorts, like little holes that the egg could go in. And as big as you need to, as big as you can really, depending on your pan. I'm using a smaller one. So I have these 2 holes going, and I'm just going to crack an egg in each one. Now, my trick for the best, in my opinion, sunny side up eggs is to have them on the pan and make sure the pan is super hot on the bottom. And then I just take one of the eggshells, I have some water in it, and then a lid to go with your pan. Put that in there with them, so that way they steam, because that way they can cook the top and the bottom pretty evenly, so your eggs don't get super hard. Because sometimes I feel like the issue is you try cooking it and you're not letting it steam, so you wait for the top to cook, because that top white and all that is usually still pretty liquidy, and by the time you're waiting for that, when you finally eat it, it's all hard and all solid on the bottom. And to me, the best part of an egg like this is when it's all runny inside. So you want it nice and runny inside, but you want it cooked all the way through with all the whites. So you do this to steam it, so that way the top and the bottom cook evenly. So when the top is done, you know that the bottom won't be hard yolk. Throw in a bit more if you need to. And while I'm letting this steam, I have a quarter of an avocado that I'm going to throw on my bowl. I'm also going to throw on some ground flaxseed and some nutritional yeast, just to give it a little extra flavor. I'm just going to use my fork. To give it a nice cheesy flavor, and you get so many like B vitamins in this. And then just kind of check on it. You will see some bubbles when you do this with your egg, and that's normal. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's just like kind of the water and and like all like the egg juice is just steaming up, especially with these potatoes. They're super starchy. Make sure it's all good. Just keep steaming. When it looks like it's getting pretty close to done, where it's getting all white on the top, turn the heat off. That way it's not cooking from the bottom anymore, but it's still kind of steaming, so that top part finishes cooking so you don't have any runny egg whites. Give it a little scoop from the bottom. Be careful so you don't crack the yolk while it's in there. And my pan is a little bit of a mess with this one, and it's never happened with butternut squash or any type of squash or just the orange like yam sweet potatoes. I've noticed that's only with this white sweet potato because it's so extra starchy that it does kind of leave a little bit at the bottom, but it's super easy to clean up on the pan. It doesn't stay there. You just give a little scraping and it all comes right off. So don't worry if that stays on the bottom of your pan if you are doing it with the white sweet potato. But there you have it. Maybe throw on a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and look at this. A perfect egg nested in some perfect sweet potato on top of some greens with so many different healthy fats. We have the olive oil in it. We have the healthy fats and omegas from the eggs. We have the flax seed. There's nutritional yeast. There's just so many, it's just so nutrient dense and nutrient packed, and this is one of my favorite meals for honestly any time. It's good for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I love having it, and I love having just like vegginess and being able to do more with my sweet potato, which is another reason why I'm so happy to finally have a spiralizer that I can fit a sweet potato in. Because for a while I was doing it with the top blade of my food processor, but having the spiralizer is just making life so much easier. And that one potato, it was a bit bigger, did fill up an entire Pyrex. This is the 4-cup Pyrex, so it filled this whole thing up. And I've done one of these before. I just made this one, and I can probably get another one of these meals out of it. So it's definitely one of my top 5 favorite meals of all time. So it's like so good, but it's still super steamy. So I'm gonna let it cool down for a bit before I dig into it. But I'm so hungry and I'm so excited. Again, it's one of my favorite meals. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what you like to use with your spiralizer, what different fruits and veggies you like to spiralize, and what you like to make with everything that you have spiralized. I would love to hear it. I'd love to learn more new things to do with my spiralizer. Also, let me know what you want to see more of on my channel. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe. I upload a new video every Wednesday. So until the next one, thanks for watching.